win streak is over. 23 straight home game streak is over. And I think we knew that this 2024 Michigan Wolverine team was going to struggle in some places. I think we knew that this Texas game was potentially a game that could be a hard one for Sharon Moore and company. But what we didn't necessarily foresee is that Texas would dominate every single phase of the game, with the exception of maybe field goal kicking, right? Dominique Zveda is, I think, 5 of 5 on the season now. I'll go back and count it, but he's automatic, which is good. Really, there's no other position group I can look at that I would say Michigan beat Texas in. And so we're going to run down a few topics of the game. The title of this broadcast is What Went Wrong Against the Longhorns. And of course, I could just answer that by saying a lot, period, end of broadcast. A lot of things went wrong. We are currently streaming live on X. We're currently streaming live on YouTube, so feel free to interact in the comments. The audio will also get posted on Apple and Spotify, so thank you for joining me. Let me start with the thing that I think was the most surprising domination by Texas in this game. There were some areas we knew that there would be some struggling. The offense, the quarterback, wide receivers, we'll get into that a little bit. What I did not foresee was Texas's offensive line absolutely dominating Michigan's defensive line. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, the two tackles coming in, All-American caliber. Mason Graham could be a top 5, top 10 NFL draft pick. Kenneth Grant has been looked at as not far behind him. We may have the best interior defensive line duo at Michigan of any team in the country. And then you tack on the edges, which for all practical purposes, heading into yesterday, we would have considered elite. I still do consider the edges elite. Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore. If you want to just hone in, of course, there's other guys that rotate in on the line, but if you want to hone in on those 4 guys, that should be one of the best, if not the best, defensive lines in the country. And so I thought that Texas would struggle to run. I didn't think that they would be able to pass protect Ewers. I thought Ewers would have to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Now, granted, Sarkisian came in with a good game plan. They were getting the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands really quick early in the game. But I think as the game wore on, they started to realize they could pretty much do whatever they want. Texas had 2 running backs injured in the preseason, and then Jadon Blue was injured and kind of banged up in the game. And so you would think Texas is going to struggle to run the ball. Not at all. Texas easily opened up running lanes for the running backs. Texas easily protected Quinn Ewers. And then if you want to even go behind that first defensive line, Michigan's linebackers were largely invisible throughout the entire game. I would have thought Jayshon Barham and Ernest Hausman would have put their stamp on this game. I actually kind of thought it was going to be a coming out party for those 2 guys. That whole front 7 for Michigan's defense was practically non-existent. Texas was able to get what they wanted. Texas passed to set up the run, which is not something we really see a team do against Michigan. Honestly, it's not something that I believe is even a smart strategy. I guess in today's college football, we see it a little bit more, but normally teams try to run to set up the pass. Texas passed to set up the run, and they did it quite effectively. Michigan fans, you better hope that this Texas offensive line is truly elite. You better hope that they're the best offensive line in the country, which they might be. As a matter of fact, I think they might be the best looking offensive line that I've seen so far this season. But, when it's all said and done, if that Texas O-line is not truly elite, then Michigan is in trouble. The good news for Michigan on that front, that defensive line is that we've seen what they're capable of. It's not like these are new guys. I mean, yeah, the linebacker core, we got to figure that out a little bit. But I have faith that Wink Martindale will. Um, but we know Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. They've shown up in the Rose Bowl. They've shown up in the national championship. We know these guys can play football, but yesterday was not a good day for either of them. And then Josiah Stewart and Derek Moore, who were very active against Fresno State, just didn't really get much going. So moving on to the next topic, the offensive play calling really lacked identity. I think this is a come to Jesus moment for Sharon Moore, new acting head coach. You've got Kirk Campbell, new acting offensive coordinator, and then you've got Grant Newsome, new acting offensive line coach. Those three guys are going to have to sit down in a room and figure out, like, what do we want our offensive play calling identity to be? Because what I would have liked to see early in this game is get Khalil Mullings between the tackles. He's had a lot of success. We didn't really see Khalil Mullings until, I want to say, late in the second, early in the third. I mean, this guy, we weren't even giving him the ball early in this game. And I completely understand getting Donovan Edwards out in space. I thought Donovan Edwards looked better in this game than he has even in the Fresno State game. I thought Donovan Edwards looked better. But if you really want to establish the way Michigan wins games and the way that Sharon Moore wants to win games, you got to hammer it between the tackles. And so get Khalil Mullings the ball. Not only that, but get Benjamin Hall the ball. I think, that I'll get to silver linings here at the end, but that's definitely a silver lining. I think Benjamin Hall looks like he's ready to play, and I think he's a between the tackles running back. And so I understand getting creative with Donovan Edwards and getting him some touches, but I would love to see Michigan early and often hammer it between the tackles with Khalil Mullings and Benjamin Hall. That's going to make Davis Warren's life a lot easier. Let's talk about the use of Alex Orji. There's no way around it. Coming into this season, how Michigan planned on using Alex Orji was one of the biggest, most exciting elements of this offense. I think it's quickly becoming clear that Kirk Campbell and or Sharon Moore are not confident in his ability to throw the ball. That's fine. That's okay. But Alex Orji's role in this one was predictable and ineffective. Completely predictable and ineffective. When he came in the game, I think it was only twice, right? He came in the game twice. Alex Orji comes in, and you basically know everybody. 100,000 people in that stadium knew, like, oh, this is going to be some sort of quarterback draw where he just maybe has a handoff read, maybe not, but like he's likely going to take, one of those little runs to the B gap that he does. And Texas's defense sniffed it out and did not let him get anything. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna march Alex Orji out on the field in the middle of a drive and have him on the field for one or two plays, mix it up a little bit. And I'm sure that Sharon and staff were planning on mixing it up a little bit. They just didn't really have the opportunity to because these drives were stalling out. But it was just ineffective. Alex Orji's role in this game was ineffective, and really his role this season has been ineffective. It's early. It's early. I know Fresno State, he got some yards, so we'll see. They need to work on that though, and I think everybody would agree with that. Now, one of the most suspect calls to me in this game, and keep in mind, I'm a huge Sharon Moore fan and supporter. I don't have my pitchfork out. I'm not here trying to criticize, saying that I know better from, wiping greasy potato chip hands on my shirt from my couch, right? Like I'm not trying to be that guy. But I talk about Michigan football. I have some criticisms. Yesterday clearly was not a good day for Michigan football. So here's what I'm looking at. The call to me that was the most suspect is we're down 24-3. showing a complete lack of urgency late in the third quarter. And we have a fourth and manageable. And Sharon Moore marches uh, Dominic Zveda onto the field to kick a field goal. What are we doing there? That says I want to make the scoreboard look a little better, keep the game close. I'm not really interested in winning. I know some people might have a different perspective of that. You got to get points while you can, all that jazz. But Texas's offense was clearly a juggernaut in this one. You can't assume you're going to hold them to 0 points the rest of the game, which of course they didn't. So 24-3, you march your field goal kicker out there and kick a field goal and make it 24-6 late in the third quarter. That doesn't say I'm trying to win this game. It just doesn't. It says I want I want to make this one look a little bit better, not get blown out quite as much. But I mean, are you playing to win the game or not? So um, definitely some play calling and offensive identity issues to work out early in this season. Um, let's go to the secondary on defense. Uh, Michigan secondary struggled. Makari Page looked like he got turned around a few times. Zeke Berry, who I love, again, disclaimer, I love these guys. Zeke Berry looked like he was guarding air uh, at some points. It was kind of peculiar. It looked like he got a little lost. Jair Hill came out and made a big play early and then got juked several times. This secondary was really kind of outclassed by this receiving core and the tight end at Texas. Will Johnson wasn't tested much. Texas was pretty smart. They were pretty smart about where they threw the ball and how they threw the ball. Will Johnson wasn't tested too much. Really, the most integral part of the game where his name was called was he ended up tracking down that receiver on the long run. It was almost a touchdown, and he made a touchdown saving tackle, which, by the way, was a pretty impressive play by Will Johnson. I think we all know he has elite speed and he's a gamer. I mean, that was an impressive play, but it came on the heels of what shouldn't have been happening to begin with, which was Texas throwing all over Michigan and getting what they wanted. Lamar Morgan, the secondary, defensive passing coordinator. He's got his work cut out for him here. He needs to figure out how he wants to get these guys to gel. There is a ton of talent in this secondary, especially if Rod Moore comes back later in the season. Lamar Morgan is a good coach that, at least we believe him to be, but they've got to figure out how they want to defend the pass. Again, just an echo of what I was saying earlier with the O-line, D-line conversation. This Texas receiving core might be the deepest in the country. And so, we might find out that Michigan just ran up against the eventual national champions and that they fare much better against other teams later in the season. That could be the case, but we have to evaluate what we saw on the field, and what we saw on the field from this Michigan secondary was not good. All right, now I'm going to get into something that's a little bit maybe even controversial here. So this offseason, Sharon Moore, Kurt Campbell, they were extremely vocal about not wanting to hit the transfer portal. Right? They were saying, no, we got confidence in our guys. I think that made Michigan faithful. I know if you're anything like me, you hear we're not going to hit the transfer portal for a quarterback, and you think, oh, Alex Orji must be making progress throwing the ball. Maybe one of the other guys on the team looks like he really could be an elite Big Ten quarterback. That decision looks questionable now. I got to be honest with you. It really looks questionable. If you're not going to hit the transfer portal for a quarterback, and you're not going to put your highest rated recruit, Jaden Davis, on the field, which Sharon Moore apparently reiterated today that he does not plan on, giving Jaden Davis a shot at this offense. I love Davis Warren. I really do. I love him as a human being. I think his story is incredible. I actually don't think he's a bad quarterback, but if you're going to look at what gives us the best opportunity to win, I think Davis Warren is maybe his ceiling is Cade McNamara ish, and that's not a slight. That's not a slight on him. Cade McNamara won a Big Ten championship, but the pieces around him don't appear to be gelling like the 2021 team gelled around Cade McNamara. I think we're going to need a little bit more of a higher ceiling quarterback for the remainder of the year. So my preference here would be, again, I'm not saying I know better than the coaches. I'm just evaluating what I see. Um, I think you got Jaden Davis on the team for a reason. I say you throw him in, let him sink or swim. I think he's an elite talent. I think he has the highest ceiling. You might have some growing pains with him, but hell, that's what we have right now. We have growing pains right now with Davis Warren. You might as well have growing pains with a guy that has a much higher ceiling. Hand him the keys to the kingdom. Let him grow. Give him a chance to get loose against Arkansas State, and then see if he can go get a win against USC. Um, you don't even have to burn his red shirt to do that, right? You could always back out of that. And so I'm interested to see if we get him some snaps or not. Um, Maybe he's just not there yet. Obviously, this coaching staff gets to see a lot more than I get to see, but I thought he looked good in the spring game. I thought I thought he was an elite high school quarterback. And when you look around the college football landscape, it's kind of embarrassing and unacceptable that Michigan can't have an elite quarterback year after year after year. I mean, there's a lot of good quarterback play now. Like, these guys are getting developed. When I turn on a Boston College game and I'm watching this Castellanos guy, I might have got his name wrong, but it's something like that. Just absolutely slice and dice and have legs, and he's accurate. And I think, is this guy on Boston College really better than Michigan's entire quarterback core? Because he's playing like he is. So it's hard to tell. Or you look at Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. Obviously, he's a higher rated recruit than Jaden Davis, but Jaden Davis is up there, right? Jaden Davis was a top 5 to 7 quarterback in the country. Nebraska didn't have any other options. They went out and got him. They put him on the field. He looks great. Um, I don't know if we have the luxury to sit there and be patient and develop Jaden Davis. I just don't know if we have the luxury. So I would like to see him on the field, or in the future, if we're in this position, I think you got to go out and get a transfer quarterback. I'm not throwing shade at Alex Orji. I'm not throwing shade at Davis Warren. All I'm saying is the University of Michigan football starters should always include an elite quarterback, because that's how you compete. It's the most important position on the field. I'm going to give Davis Warren some props. He was gritty again in this game. Completion percentage was about 66%. I'm looking at 22 out of 23, 204 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. The issues that I really had with Davis Warren in this offense in general was, time after time we saw drives stall on third down, and you just can't do that. You got, like, the inaccurate throws on third down and the questionable play calling on third down. All of that culminates to giving a Texas field this Texas team a short field with more opportunities to score, which we saw them do. Quite frankly, the way that this game panned out, I'm surprised Texas didn't score more than 31 points. They probably could have if they wanted to. Davis Warren did look good at the end of the game. He got the passing touchdown to Samaj Morgan. I felt really good about that, but also Texas was kind of leaning back in their prevent defense at that point. So during competitive snaps of the game, what are we going to see? Colston Loveland showed up again. That was nice. 8 catches for 70 yards. Granted, he didn't do Warren any favors with that absolutely atrocious fumble. Freddie Moore had that little bobbled ball. There was I forget who it was. It's all blurring together now. Maybe Tyler Morris. There was another drop in there, another fumble. Nevertheless, We have to uh, see more elite quarterback play if we're going to win in the Big Ten and if we're going to win like we did last year. Uh, let's talk a little bit about silver linings. Honestly, guys, I'm an optimist. I really am. I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a Michigan supporter. The good news is uh, that Texas team probably is one of the best two teams in the country, maybe best three if you throw Ohio State in there. I don't think we know what we have in Ohio State yet, but let's be honest, they got talent all over the field. They're probably a top three team. Georgia and Texas is kind of a coin flip. Is Georgia's win against Clemson a bigger deal than Texas's win against Michigan? I think we're going to find out when we find out how good Michigan is. I tend to think Texas might be the best team in the country, honestly. I think most of the country would say Georgia at this point, but it's kind of a 1A, 1B situation. The good news is Texas is not a conference game. That's a silver lining right there. So Michigan is still, we're technically undefeated in the Big Ten. So can you go out? Is the Big Ten off the table? No. Is this going to be the toughest Big Ten schedule we've seen in maybe ever? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oregon looks not like a juggernaut, but they're going to get better and are probably a top 10 team. Ohio State is definitely a top three team. The real litmus test that we need to look at here is going to be USC, right? I'll be at that game in person. I'm excited. First ever stripe out afternoon game against USC, rematch of the Rose Bowl back in the day. I think early 2000s Rose Bowl. With Braylon Edwards and those guys on the field. So I mean, technically, we're having two early 2000s Rose Bowl rematches here early in the season because we just had our Texas Rose Bowl rematch, which did not go well, and then we're going to have the USC Rose Bowl rematch here shortly. But that's really going to be a litmus test for this team. Uh, but the silver lining is if we go out there and beat USC, who looks good, USC had that win against LSU. USC looks to me is definitely a top 10 team based on the football that's been played on the field so far. If you have a Lincoln Riley offense with a defense that appears to be playing better, you've got yourself a dangerous team. Michigan will want to go into that USC game thinking, okay, 1-0. Let's work out the kinks. Let's figure out what's going on against Arkansas State. Arkansas State, by the way, is winning some football games. They don't look like pushovers, and so we really want to, get some of these guys on the field and see what they're made of in Arkansas State, and then go out with a real identity against USC and get a win. Benjamin Hall, who I mentioned earlier, he looked great. That's a silver lining. It was cool to see Jordan Marshall returning kicks. Jordan Marshall is a highly touted running back recruit, true freshman. We've got to get him on the field. We've got to get him involved. Marlon Klein, we got a Marlon Klein sighting all of a sudden coming in this offseason. I was thinking Marlon Klein, our number 2 tight end, might be one of the most dangerous pieces of the puzzle for this team. He got his first catch against Texas, right? That was one catch for 7 yards. That's all we've seen of Marlon Klein. Typically on a Jim Harbaugh style offense, obviously Harbaugh's gone, but we think Sharon Moore's kind of bringing the same philosophies forward. The number 2 tight end should be one of the most dangerous guys on the field. We've seen it year after year with, Schoonmaker and guys like that. Even Loveland, his freshman year. And so Marlon Klein, I'd love to get him involved more. Kendrick Bell, Ronnie Bell's little brother. It appears that he might be a top 3 receiver on this team. I could be wrong. C.J. Charleston got the start. C.J. Charleston got a 22-yard catch on that little flea flicker. It remains to be seen where he fits into this offense. The whole receiving core is kind of a question mark at this point, but the way that they seem to be targeting Kendrick Bell suggests that you have Samaj Morgan and Tyler Morris as your top 2 options, and maybe Kendrick Bell is that third option. Very similar to his brother, right? He came out 3-star recruit, appears to be working his butt off, and is in the hunt for being a starting receiver on this team. And so far, when he's been throwing the ball, he's caught the ball. So good for him. And then I think the biggest silver lining for this Michigan team right now, the one element of the game that appears to be going better than anything else is field goal kicking. It really is. He is a I'm talking about Dominique Zvada. I've been calling him Zvada. It might be Zvada. I'm gonna get clarity on that before my next broadcast here. But he is seemingly automatic, which I'd love to see us get in the end zone more, but getting 3 on the board is always important, and so that seems to be a silver lining as well. Michigan will take on Arkansas State next week before USC coming into the big house in week 4. I'll be back for both of those. I've been doing post game reactions with my friend and guy from Maize and Brew, Jared Stormer. He's from the Out of the Blue podcast. We do some post game reactions for Bleacher Report, so definitely follow me on X to stay tuned in there. It's at Wolverine Chron. That's the Wolverine Chronicle page on X. You can also follow my personal account at Real Smeltzer. That's the Michael Smeltzer personal account on X. And then follow on YouTube as well, guys. I put a lot of these videos on YouTube. That's it's Wolverine Chronicle is the page on YouTube. I think you just do at Wolverine Chronicle after youtube.com. That will get it there. I'll see you guys next week. That was The Blue Wall. I am Michael Smeltzer. And as always, go blue.